Hi guys, I'm Zach Steele. This is Tyler Hobart. This will be our Week 4 recap, where we'll go over a bunch of players that you should look to buy low and sell high on ahead of Week 5.
Yep.
All right, so number one on the buy low list, I'll put him here again. Is Jonathan Taylor. This man is an animal and behind one of the best offensive lines on a good team, surprisingly, because apparently the Colts have an awesome defense.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, that's the recipe for success if you're a running back. They're going to have a lot of leads. They can block for him. And somehow, like, they've been winning by so much the last couple of games, they haven't had to use him. They blew out the Jets, and he just played half a game. And pretty much the same thing with the Bears this last week. So somehow, for several weeks, he's avoided having that breakout game. So he's still somewhat affordable. And sooner or later, it's going to
Yeah, that's where
happen.
I'm like, he hasn't got the workload. So
Yeah.
if you can go get him.
I mean, they play a surprisingly tough run defense in the Browns this week, so maybe next week is like the last time you have a chance to buy him, but go trade for him. You got most
I
owners drafted him not to be an RB1, and he very well should be an RB1 the rest of the season, in my opinion.
yeah, and I think that I'd say the same kind of thing for Derrick Henry. This is like your last week too. You were gifted a COVID week where maybe the owner that has Derrick Henry kind of forgot that they drafted Derrick Henry. And he's been
Mhm.
out a couple weeks and hasn't performed anyway. And if you can go get him, like I think it's a great buy low candidate if you need a
Or,
running back.
I
And
mean, like, for some perspective, I own Derrick Henry, and I'm also 1-3 in our main league. And
record.
if I'm concerned that Derrick Henry doesn't play this week because the Titans are experiencing COVID issues, then I could see myself moving to Derrick Henry for a guy like Josh Jacobs, maybe, just because, like, I'd do it with a wince, but, like, at least I know Josh, like, the Titans might have to forfeit this next game because the NFL
hmm
could punish them for violating COVID policy protocol, which that's not a bye week you're getting back later in the season either. So at that point, it's like the equivalent of an injury, and it's like if
If you're
Derrick
doing
Henry,
well,
yeah, you can afford to wait it out because it's not like the Titans are going away, and Derrick Henry
mhm,
is one of the few running backs that on a week-to-week basis can get 30 carries. So
that's the
um,
case for Henry.
another guy we put here is Miles Sanders. All the volume numbers are there. He's really involved in the passing game. He's getting a lot of carries, and if you watch him play, he looks talented. He looks better on the
hmm
field than his fantasy numbers are showing, and that's mainly just because Carson Wentz has been awful, and like reality, because the offense isn't scoring, so he's missing out on scoring opportunities, and Wentz is like so awful he can't even deliver accurate passes to Sanders right now. So like that's going to get better. He can't possibly do worse than he's been doing, and the Miles Sanders owner in your league is probably pretty fed up with it, so you could probably go get him pretty cheap.
I think he was. I bought low on Sanders.
Yeah, you got him way cheap, but um,
And so then we have McCaffrey. I would say if you're in a great position, especially if you drafted well, and you can put together a package for an owner that's already sat with him, and they've done. I have McCaffrey, for example, in a league, and I'm 1-3. And if I were to get a bunch of depth back from, I think that's gonna your McCaffrey owner is really gonna have to think about that. And we all know how crazy McCaffrey's volume is, and so I think if you can go buy low, he's a great candidate.
and then just another note: if you don't own McCaffrey but you own Mike Davis, maybe try and flip Mike Davis to the McCaffrey owner because
hmm
then if they own McCaffrey and Davis, they know they've got to start every week. So
And he's been insane, Mike
he's
Davis.
it's almost like Christian McCaffrey is not actually that talented and replaceable.
We won't go there.
Number 5 here, I've got Josh Jacobs. Another guy, he's getting the volume and he's just not producing, but they've played 3 really solid run defenses the last several weeks, and he's still getting the volume. He's getting a lot more work out of the passing game than he got last year, which you love to see, and he's just not falling in the end zone. And again, he's playing good defenses, so they're not winning. But in games where they're winning or at least competitive, he's going to be involved throughout the game. And the Raiders aren't a bad team; they'll be competitive in most of their games, if not winning. And like I think Josh Jacobs is like a fringe RB1 or two, like, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of guy owners are going to view him as an RB2 for sure. So if you can go trade like two pieces, I love 2-for-1 deals. If you can trade like an RB3 and a wide receiver 3 for him, it's a great idea in my opinion.
I agree. And then I'm a little biased with the Tyler Lockett selection on this list, but I think it's more of a week to week play of he's been tremendous and the volume's there, and we hope that Russ continues to throw that much.
Mm-hmm.
And had a down week. And so if you can go get him for a decent price, that's an offense I think you're gonna have so much success in, like in
Mm-hmm.
fantasy this year. So you should want to be a part of it. And Lockett's the face of that offense in terms of the receiving game. So
I agree. Yeah. Would you rather own Lockett or Metcalf rest of the season?
Metcalf's more fun, but
He's more
I
fun,
like
but I
yeah,
think I
I
think
like
Lock
Lockett.
I think Lockett's gonna have a more consistent floor.
Yeah, and I don't
Um,
want guys dropping the ball through the back of the end zone. So
no.
I
So
like Lockett. He's got that crazy connection with Russ.
I
So
agree. Um, Another guy on this list I've got is Deshaun Watson. He's been, I mean, that whole franchise has been awful for the first 4 weeks, just to put it lightly. But he's one of the few quarterbacks out there that has a legit shot to finish inside the top 5 at the position, and he's been bad enough that the Watson owner might be willing to move him. As we're seeing this year with such high-powered offenses, it's really hard to compete this year in fantasy if you don't have one of those top-tier quarterbacks. Like guys like Stafford and Breeze and Brady, who are my 3 quarterbacks, um,
uh,
are not getting it done. So you
I thought you were
like
going to say something like a little
no,
concerning there.
no. I'm saying you need one of those. You need a Dak, a Josh Allen, a Russell Wilson, a Mahomes, a Lamar, Kyler Murray, and Deshaun Watson, I think, are the 7 quarterbacks that you can compete with at the quarterback position. So he's the
We'll
cheapest of
see.
all of them. So I would totally go acquire him if you can.
Yeah, he's elite. Next, we got Zeke. So that offense, that was last week's game, and Elliott really hasn't. I don't know, obviously, if that's going to be the case the whole season of them being down big and them not feeding Zeke, but he really hasn't been able to have the opportunity to. And the Cowboys haven't shown that they want to get the run going, which is kind of concerning. But I think Elliott's elite, so if you can go get him for less than the owner
It's like
was,
he's very quietly been good, but he hasn't
yeah,
had
but
that
not
breakout
like
game yet.
not what you drafted him for.
No, but I mean, he's healthy, which is hard to
Yeah,
come across at
it's
running back right now. If your top running back is healthy, you're happy right now. So,
that's
you can,
all you need to know for
you can
Zeke.
get a healthy elite running back.
Mm-hmm.
So another guy I've got on here who I'm not even confident is a buy low at this point. He's looked awful, and they're not throwing him the ball. He's Derrick Henry without rushing ability. Is Kenyon Drake, but the volume's there, and he's ran 19 more routes on the season than Chase Edmonds, so that suggests he should be more involved in the passing game than he's been. If you can get him really cheap from the Drake owner, if your Drake owner is just sick of him, go get him.
And do it. Otherwise, I
But
think you can afford to wait.
and if you have depth at running back too, like if you've got 3 running backs and Ronald Jones is your 4th guy, go offer Ronald Jones for Kenyon Drake because the upside on Drake is way higher, and you can afford to lose that trade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Last, we got Gaskins. So I like Gaskins just because I think he's separated himself in that backfield for starters. And
Mhm.
I unfortunately paid the price by thinking Jordan Howard was going to own that backfield. But I like Miles Gaskins a lot because I don't think he's hit the end zone this year, but he's got like tremendous volume and was a fantastic player at UW. So I think if you can go get him for cheap, or I think the team that
Yeah.
has him in our leagues already set at running back. So like if you can just
Mhm.
snag him off somebody's guy's bench in a league where so many running backs are just dropping like flies, it could be a great a great
Well,
play
yeah,
though.
whoever got him off waivers, so they're probably okay without him. Um, and I
Hmm.
think he's a fringe RB2, RB3 the rest of the season, and that's valuable, especially given that a lot of people don't really recognize that because he hasn't really had a breakout game yet. He's gotten a lot of volume, but like Tyler said, he hasn't fallen in the end zone yet. So better days are coming
Which
for
I
him.
like.
Yeah. Hmm. All right. So moving on to players we think you should sell high
So Odell's pretty obvious
on.
in terms of just an insane game
Yeah.
where he has like more touchdowns in that game than his former team's offense this season. So if someone wants to buy the name and buy that performance, like by all means, please sell
Yeah.
to them because I have hardly cared for him and that Browns offense since getting there, or for Baker in on that matter. So I think if you can get rid of him off that wild performance for some wide receivers that are going to perform consistently for you, like do it in a heartbeat.
Or if you're say you're 4-0 right now and you can go trade Odell for Julio, who has a hamstring injury right now, do it.
I would.
Yeah.
That injury is always tough with Julio.
I mean, if you're 1-3, don't make that trade. But like Julio's better down the road. I mean, like most of Beckham's points this last week came on a Jarvis Landry pass and an end
Yeah.
around 50-yard run. That's not going to happen every week. So if you take those two plays out, he really wasn't great. Baker hasn't been
Hmm.
good. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. The only part of that Browns offense I want is Kareem Hunt right now.
Hmm. Agreed.
Um, Number two I'm putting in here is Melvin Gordon. He had a massive game last week on Thursday night, but
Kind of annoying.
it was annoying. But 45 yards and a touchdown of it came on a game clinching run where, like, if you take that play out, he had like 55 rushing yards and a touchdown, which is fine. But he hadn't really done anything to show that he's an elite running back. His whole career, he's under 4 yards per carry on his career. He's been a guy that needs volume to produce, and Philip Lindsay's coming back this week. So if you can
Hmm.
trade him for a legit RB2, do it because I don't think Melvin Gordon
No.
sustains this production. The Broncos' offense is bad. You're not going to get those. He's been very touchdown dependent in his career, aside from his rookie year where he didn't score a touchdown. But
Hmm.
um, he's not going to find the end zone very often in this offense. So if you can trade the 2 touchdowns, do it.
Yep. So Keenan Allen, I'm not like convinced in terms of like look to sell him at all costs, kind of like an
Mm-hmm.
Odell. Um, but he has had like an incredible amount of volume, like 32 receptions this year is pretty amazing. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, that might be typical of Keenan Allen, but I don't think that'll sustain the whole year. Even though Herbert's like looked amazing, but
Mm-hmm.
so I think if you can get a package for him that's pretty sizable, those 2-for-1s are pretty awesome, then I think you do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not like aggressively trying to move him either. But
No, I mean,
he has been a top performer.
he's got a really nice floor. Um, I think he's got a
Herbert may
35%,
trust him.
and he's got like a 35% target share, which is nuts. But when it gets down to it, the Chargers want to run the ball. I don't see them throwing the ball as much as they've been doing. Um,
Yeah,
a
their
35%
defense
target
is just
share
so bad.
is otherworldly. They're not going to continue that. So I like Keenan Allen. I think you have to get a good offer to move him, but I think he's somebody that's done well enough the last couple of weeks. You can be dropping him.
Hmm.
Um, Todd Gurley here. If you own him, I don't know what you're doing. Like, get him off your roster. he's he's a big
Is your
name.
dad watching?
He's a big name. He's got 4 touchdowns through 4 games, and he's
Oh.
still RB 19. I want to say in PPR, and I'll be generous and say he should be like you could expect him to get 8 touchdowns over the course of the year. So take 2 touchdowns out from there, so he'd be on that pace, and he wouldn't be an RB3. That's what you're looking at. If you just watch him play, he's not the same Gurley he's
Yeah.
watched. There's nothing left in them. I mean, he's better than Ito Smith. I can't say he's better than Brian Hill in that offense. And I don't know. That whole roster's that whole franchise is a dumpster fire. But Gurley is he's not the same player he used to be, and he's still got the name, and he somehow has production so far this
Sell
year.
the name.
Sell the name and the fact that he has 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like that. My running backs. So Ronald Jones, I don't hate Ronald Jones like a Todd Gurley, but especially this week because I'm pretty sure Fournette's already rolled out.
It's doubtful, I
But
think. But yeah.
I just don't like Ronald Jones long term, and he had a
Mm-hmm.
monster game. So I think if you can sell him and get out of that rushing offense
Mm-hmm.
and sell the Tampa Bay offense, then gladly
Yeah.
do that. As we have so many other Tampa Bay names on here, just
Yeah.
sell the offense.
I
I
mean,
think it's been
if you watched the
overperforming.
game, Ronald Jones didn't look like a guy that had 120 rushing yards last week.
No,
Like there was nothing really impressive about what he did, and he dropped 3 passes. And like as you
yeah,
know,
he's not a pass catcher.
Tom Brady likes to throw the ball to his running backs, and he was very clearly upset with Ronald Jones. Like I could see a world where Ronald Jones drops a pass the first half of tomorrow's game, Brady just goes to Arians and says, "Don't put him back on the field," because
He just has to yell enough.
Brady's an ass like that. And if Brady
So
doesn't like you, you don't play. So
I think
um,
he likes Fournette more. No
I
evidence, but I think he likes him more.
they've got some fun pictures together on Twitter.
Yeah. I don't
um,
see Ronald Jones tweeting at him.
no. So the guy I've got here, sell high on. It's kind of a quick flip from being a buy low last week, but Joe Mixon. Like obviously he falls somewhere in between what he did the first 3 weeks and what he did last week. Last week's game suddenly made him RB8 on the season, which is ridiculous given how bad he was the first 3.
It's annoying.
And I think RB8 is about where he'll finish, like in the 8 to 12 range, and that's about where I'd put him. But if you can sell, like if you can trade Joe Mixon for McCaffrey right now, do it.
Oh, that would hurt.
If you can afford to, if you're 3-1 or 4-0, trade Mixon for McCaffrey, and the McCaffrey owner might do that, and especially if they're 1-3 at this point and need to win this week.
I'm not.
I guess the Bengals play the Ravens this week. He's going to come back down to earth real quick, but
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind getting rid of him.
yeah,
And Tom Brady only 5 touchdowns just against an awful Chargers defense. And
they're just banged up.
that's really, yeah, they're just banged up. Like, so that's where Brady hasn't looked great to this point. I saw a lot of 50-50 balls go his way. And I just don't think you're going to get those 5 touchdowns again, or all I'm seeing are these headlines where he's back. And I think if you can take advantage of someone that's willing to eat up those articles,
And the name,
sell Brady.
trade
Yeah,
names.
sell Brady. Those 5 touchdowns. You might be able to get a good quarterback for him. So
Yeah, if
who
you
knows
could
what that Watson owner's thinking.
package Brady with a low end flex play for Deshaun Watson, I could see that happening.
Be just amazing.
So another guy I've got here is CeeDee Lamb. I actually think he's a very talented receiver, but
Mm-hmm.
rookies rarely produce at a high level throughout the course of a season, and he's done that so far. But he's getting more receptions and targets than Michael Gallup right now, which isn't something I see continuing. Nor do I see
Mm-hmm.
like the Cowboys' offense is going to slow down. I mean, I get that their defense is awful and they're playing catch up from the first snap, basically, but I have a hard time seeing him keeping up this pace. And a lot of people are really clamoring to get a piece of that Cowboys offense. So if you could trade him for a wide receiver 2, which is I think what he currently is this year, I would do it in a heartbeat.
I agree.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's just there's so many mouths to feed in Dallas. So
Yeah,
if you can get rid of him and get someone that has a bigger role in an offense, do it.
for sure.
So Mike Evans, I gotta talk about all the Bucks. That's crazy. So Mike Evans we've been clamoring to sell him for weeks, and the 4 catches, 4 touchdowns, and then gets another one this week. But it was a pretty monster game, and
Mm-hmm.
a game where Brady obviously was able to tear up the Chargers. So I think now, maybe people that were skeptical to buy on Mike Evans see a wonderful performance, and you've already got 5 touchdowns out of that man. Like
Yeah.
if you can sell him with, mind you know Godwin's there right now, like just do it. I think it's a pretty no brainer.
Yeah. I
Where
mean,
he's just
in two
what wide
games,
receiver is he in
he's a
PPR?
wide receiver
You know?
one. I don't know the number,
Oh my.
but like
Oh yeah. Okay.
in 2 games with Godwin, he has 3 catches for 4 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yes.
So like that's not sustainable. And again, he's limping around every game, all game. So at a certain point, he's gonna miss some games. I believe. In fact, I think he's supposed to play tomorrow, but he might be
You've got
limited.
his best like 4 weeks already, so it's just
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather if you can trade Evans for Godwin straight up, I would do it
oh
in
yeah.
a heartbeat.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. He's like I think Evans is a top 20 wide receiver the rest of the season, but I don't think he's much better than that.
Yeah.
Um, and last year on here, Jerry Jeudy. I know we're kind of picking on the rookie receivers here, but Jerry Jeudy, his performance last week was saved by a defender letting a ball bounce off his helmet and getting a 50-yard touchdown. He doesn't even seem like the number one option in that offense. Tim Patrick has been good, surprisingly. Like Jerry Judy's a talented receiver, and I think he'll be great career-wise, but I don't think this is the
They
year.
want to run.
They want to run the ball. Drew Lock and their backups don't impress me. Um, the only pieces of that offense I really want to be playing on a weekly basis are Noah Fant, and I guess you can play Gordon weekly, but you're not happy about it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Jerry Judy's had some nice games so far, and I think people will see the name first round draft pick, caught a big touchdown last week with a backup quarterback, and think that better things are to come. But I just don't.
I agree.
Like, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that'll do it for our episode of Buy Low, Sell High. If you like
Smash the like button.
yeah, hit subscribe. If you want more content like this, that way you'll get notified whenever we release new videos. Trying to up the content, so hopefully we'll get put together a start sit video, probably posted on Saturday, so you guys can make sure your lineups are all set to go. And we also do a waiver column every week if you want to check that out. Great, thanks for watching.
See ya.